Five Nights at Freddy's is, well, to put it simply, it eludes me. Like a lot of you guys watching, I fell out of it not long before Security Breach released, and while I didn't jump on the hate train, I also wasn't necessarily enthusiastic about it either. But I honestly can't help but feel like I've been missing out somehow. I mean, I saw the FNAF movie and honestly enjoyed it despite its shortcomings, but I genuinely could not keep up with the countless books, and truth be told, I was intimidated by the, albeit very high quality, lengthy breakdown videos on YouTube. So flash forward to present day, and I still haven't finished Into the Pit, and also wasn't jumping for joy when news about something called The Mimic was up next. Of course, not counting, you know, the song. But I think the biggest thing that I lost out on by being so out of touch for so long is the way that I lost track of the FNAF fandom, like, almost entirely. Which is a shame, because despite its history of high highs and low lows in terms of its reputation, the FNAF fandom is incredibly talented. And the real scaffolding of it all, despite the boatload of fan art and models and the nerdcore songs, which are all really impressive too, truly does lie with the fully fledged fan games usually made entirely from the ground up. And as I've discovered, there has been a solid amount of variety, especially in recent times. But here's where my brain started chugging away. I don't think anybody will deny that Five Nights at Freddy's is a brand that is incredibly tonally inconsistent. And while this part may or may not have changed in my, well, absence, people have loved to rag on Security Breach and the development studio behind it, Steelwolf, for changing FNAF's feel. But you could look as far back as Sister Location, or even FNAF 4 if you want to push it, to find Scott injecting his own personal tastes into FNAF that didn't necessarily align with the more traditional paranormal horror that people typically thought of when thinking about FNAF's story. And this stretches into its visual presentation too, with how FNAF has become increasingly more sci-fi over the years. But hey, this is the guy who made the Desolate Hope we're talking about. Anyways, where am I going with this? Well, I'm certain there's no shortage of videos discussing the way FNAF as a series has changed. I think an interesting thing to take a look at is the way FNAF's multifaceted nature has reverberated throughout its community, throughout its various fan projects. And I also think I can provide a unique perspective as someone whose foot is only really halfway through the door, so to speak. And so that's exactly what we'll be doing today. As always, I'll just be giving my thoughts and discuss and analyze certain things, and then leave the floor to you guys. And hey, like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this one. Also, since my last video, not only did we hit 6,000 subscribers, we also hit 7,000 subscribers and are almost at 8,000. Wow, man. So I just want to say thank you guys so much. This little community we've been building up here has been really great so far, and if you're not part of it yet, I hope you'll be inclined to join by the end. Anyway, enough of my big mouth. Let us proceed. So, I talked a bit about the FNAF movie earlier, right? And while I wish we had the time to delve into my thoughts on the second film, what I was thinking walking out of that first one was not only the inevitable split between the audience and critic reviews, but also the way that a lot of fans would inevitably want something darker. Like, uncharacteristically dark. Like, analog horror dark. Here's the thing. Five Nights at Freddy's, especially in its infancy, is like 2 steps away from the scary VHS tape analog horror content that took YouTube by storm, particularly in the wake of Local 58 and other YouTube series like it. And don't get me wrong, I can get behind some good analog horror, FNAF or otherwise. Some of the FNAF animations I've stumbled across over the years have scared the shit out of me. And before you SpongeBob roller coaster gif me, yes, I know, I am SpongeBob in that gif. But a consistent theme I've seen throughout all of those videos is just how much darker and more in-your-face grim it is. Granted, I don't necessarily know to what extent this content still circulates throughout the FNAF fandom as of 2026, but it's just kind of funny to me the way that, at least to my memory, FNAF fan content had the exact opposite vibe 10 years ago. I have distinct memories of like how to make FNAF not scary in that Springtrap Mangle comic, and you want this cake? But then as soon as FNAF's identity kind of metamorphosizes, from where I'm sitting, it looks like the fandom followed suit, as if people deliberately swung in the opposite direction. Now, this likely also has to do with the fact that FNAF's fanbase grew up during this time and became more inclined to explore darker, grittier, gorier themes in their works. But then you get to FNAF Ransomware, and this is just where I become lost. I think I understand what's being done here in the sense that this is trying to be out-of-universe horror.
It's digital horror, and the act of downloading the game itself is the scary now.
But I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that either A, these people don't think about or know how fake game ransomware typically looks, looks, or B, that's not the point and I just don't get it and boo, tomato, tomato. Listen, I can reasonably surmise where the obsession with FNAF analog horror comes from. From what I can gather, it's an attempt to reconnect Freddy's with the more grounded paranormal roots we discussed. I mean, seriously, this presentation works way better for guy kills kids at Chuck E. Cheese, kids haunt restaurant than the kind of Batman villain bullshit he's later proposed to have been doing all along. But when you start applying that presentation to a ransomware video, I can't help but think to myself, did a guy fiending for some Bitcoin actually make this? Now, don't take this as me being the fun police or anything, because I can certainly see the appeal, but it's just harder for me to kind of suspend my disbelief with this kind of content, if that makes sense. And you know what? It's funny, because I can almost certainly take one look at any FNAF game and understand that, yeah, the analog horror content spreading around on YouTube definitely influenced this. But I'm almost curious as to how far the ransomware stuff goes. How deep is this rabbit hole? Because it perfectly encapsulates that reverberance butterfly effect I mentioned earlier. Through a chain reaction, these videos spawned from nothing. But seeing as the last time I tried to speak on fandom topics when I wasn't necessarily fully in the loop, it kinda backfired just a teensy tiny bit. I figured I should make like Rick Harrison and call in my buddy who is an expert. So huge thanks to sleepyoreo for helping me out with preparing for this video. She's usually the one who fills me in on fandom subjects when I'm kinda, you know, not caught up, so you've got her to thank for me kinda having my shit together this time. You know, she was actually supposed to be in this video, but you know what? It's fine. We'll do it next time. Don't quote me on that though. Anywho, FNAF 1 Remake is what I'd call the apex point of the ransomware path. I mean, just look, it's got everything you could want out of something like this. The menus have got that basic minimalist look that are synonymous with these for some reason. And this Freddy model was made by an actual human being and not, allegedly, an AI. And the contrast has just been cranked to Kingdom Come too, and it just sells the look so well. You wanna know my favorite part about it though? This game's a parody, and not just of the ransomware stuff either. From what I've been told, this game is also parodying a bunch of FNAF fan games that I just haven't played, I guess. Here, you open up the game and you're immediately met with this like long droning text that feels like a Star Wars intro before the angsty disembodied voice resizes the window. And honestly, there is something pretty cool done with this. When you start up the actual game itself, you find out that whenever you move your camera left and right, like to check the doors, the window actually moves along your screen with you. And I'd be lying if I said it wasn't a little disorienting, so I don't know if it's a parody of something else, but either way, it is still pretty cool. Especially because as far as I know, this was made in ClickTeam, and that engine's a piece of shit. I don't know how you pulled that off. And at this point, I'm already thinking, wow, this is pretty high effort for an April Fool's game, and we'll definitely talk more about that later. The first night is pretty standard. Closing doors, checking lights, and all that, you know, typical FNAF stuff. But then when you hit 6 a.m. and you won, the clock starts dialing back, all the way back to 12 p.m. Is this like a joke I don't get or something? Anyways, you go on to night 2 and now Foxy's in the mix, and he pretty much works exactly how he does in FNAF 1, except now you can shock his ass. So night 2's just a breeze. But night 3 is just where, like, oh my god. So I died to Freddy the first time over, because I didn't really know what was going on. Nothing appeared in the left doorway, and I didn't even really process that I was supposed to keep my light on him before it was too late. And time number 2, I couldn't find him on the cameras whenever he did his little laugh, and I died again. I think I was actually told that this mechanic is a parody of something, but Jesus, the camera takes so long to pan, I can't even tell if that's him back there half the time. Get over there, man! My third death was just completely my fault. I mean, the others were my fault too, but this one was really my fault. He just showed up in my office and I thought he was Golden Freddy for some reason, so I was like, oh god, flip the camera up. Nope, dead. But this was bullshit. What the hell is Solve My Puzzles doing fading in from the top of the screen? Just had a complete brain fart there and just, yeah, dead again. After this point, the trial and error phase was pretty much done, and it was just a matter of actually surviving. Night 4 goes by without a hiccup, and then night 5 comes around, and exactly at 4 a.m., the little disembodied voice from the game's intro comes back again, and oh my god, it's Fredbear! He's getting all ugly and stuff, and scary and evil, and then he, like, instead of jump scaring you, kind of, like, f***s off in the opposite direction. I thought that was kind of funny. And this leads right into the little boss battle sequence where you're just surviving the one guy. Funnily enough, I found this to be honestly easier than nights 4 and 5. I did it on my first try. And now Fredbear's all sad and stuff because you're not playing anymore. Like static Miku. You then met with this like crazy meme video, I guess, and cue credits. And then you finally get access to the extras menu where you find out the animatronics names are Funbear, Bonnie, Chick, Oxy Pirate, and Buddy. Huh. There's also some concept art here for a scrapped animatronic character that was supposed to be in this called Sister. You know what's great about this? I'm actually familiar with this subject. This is very clearly ripping on Brother from FNAF in real time. Ignoring the fact that its creator is already an interesting individual. Talk about but wasted potential. Not only was that game set up in the weirdest way possible, like I'm pretty sure it was just a series of MP4s, so two characters couldn't even be moving at the same time. But what the hell were they thinking with adding in an original character into it? And all kinds of weird lore at that. Jesus, if you are gonna add an original character to a project like this, can you pick a better name? What an unfortunate name for an antagonistic character. Oh, Bonnie! Oh, Chica! Oh, brother! And then what, the team went and leveraged all the attention they got from that project to launch their new original mascot cartoon horror project, starring such striking iconic characters like Pinata Puppy and Gay Gecko and Loris Loch Ness. And Gay Gecko. Just whatever. Back to what I was talking about. The thing that really interested me about this, though, was the message from the game's developer Marco Antonio in the little bonus section. He confirms that this, yes, is an April Fool's bit. He then follows up by saying that if you got scared playing this game, you should probably reconsider a lot in your life. I mean, personally, besides the one time I was caught off guard, it wasn't like I was quivering in my boots, but genuine question, does Marco Antonio know what he made? Sure, it capitalizes on some of the low-hanging fruit scare tactics here and there, but beyond that, it literally caters to all of the tastes of the people he's trying to make fun of with this game. But the way this message is phrased is as if he wasn't expecting that result. That being, whenever I look this game up on YouTube, everybody's talking about it like it's the quintessential FNAF ransomware experience. And you know what? To a certain degree, it is! As someone who has next to no familiarity with the FNAF ransomware scene at all, just comparing those videos with this game, it is incredibly clear why this was so well received. That is hilarious. I've never heard of somebody putting too much effort into their joke fan game. But honestly, the more I think about it, the more I kind of struggle to think about what could have actually been done to make it clear that this is a joke fan game without, you know, just make it all look bad. Because I believe there is a serious demographic of Five Nights at Freddy's fan who, no matter what you do with it or how gory you make it, the further it gets away from how FNAF looks now with its relatively cartoony style, the more they're going to be drawn to it. But what's really ironic about it is that it often alienates the exact kind of fan that they would otherwise really get along with. What kind of FNAF fan am I talking about, you might be asking? Well, the ones that are looking for just something that's plain badass. Something that can be felt throughout a lot of Scott Cawthon's work, and even in FNAF as early as the second game, is the rule of cool. There's no way he wasn't rubbing his hands together modeling Withered Bonnie. I mean, come on. There are literally millions of people who just want to bask in the aura of Springtrap and not like, I don't know, the blood of the missing children. Back in my day, I remember this kind of manifesting in the form of those SFM animations where the FNAF 1 and 2 cast would all be coexisting in the same building and they'd talk to each other and they'd kick each other's asses sometimes. You guys remember that? From the peeking around that I've done, these kinds of videos have evolved into those like really cinematic, high-quality FNAF animations. They could not be further away from the 4x3 analog technology. And the reason for that being is that these videos and these people are more concerned with how powerful the animatronics are, not necessarily how scary. And honestly, I can get behind that shit too. I mean, that's pretty cool. And this brings us to our next game, which I feel perfectly encapsulates this vibe. And surprisingly, it's on Roblox of all places. This is Bite by Night, a Roblox game that describes itself as an asymmetrical horror survival game. Which basically means that it's f***ing Dead by Daylight. Every round, one player is chosen to be the killer, while the rest are survivors, working together on a random map until the clock hits 6 AM and the exit door opens up for the survivors to try and escape. Each of the killers have their own distinct abilities that give them their own unique kind of playstyle. As of when I'm recording this video, the killers in-game are Springtrap, Ennard, and the Mimic. Wait, what the shit? Sorry, the Rotten, the Project, and the Doppelganger. Okay. Yeah, apparently Big Cawthon wasn't too happy when he found out this game was using his characters with these admittedly really shameless microtransactions riddled all throughout him. They're profiting off his brand, you know, you kind of can't do that. The wild thing is, though, is that this game is really high quality. And not even just by Roblox standards, I mean just in general. If you told me this was official, I'd probably believe you. The visuals are just on point, and they're exactly what I was talking about earlier in terms of that rule of cool, crazy cinematic factor. Everything down to the intro animations are trying their damnedest to convince you that these characters are badass, and you know what? It's working. I'm sold. The funny thing is, it almost makes me understand more if Scott's like kind of a little bit pissed off then, because it really would not surprise me if there are people out there that think this game actually is official. And while that's great for the devs, it's not so great for Scott when it's not actually official. And I kind of glossed over it earlier, but Jesus, these microtransactions really, like, it's bad, you know? Like, you really cannot do that, man. Now, I should probably preface this next part by saying that I haven't actually played Dead by Daylight for myself, and my experience with other Roblox ASIM games is pretty limited. I played a bit of that Forsaken game before it all went down the friggin' hole. A friend of mine even had me voicing John Doe in a project of his before a friggin' fiasco broke out over whether or not it was okay to choke chicken over my voice. But all in all, these games just typically don't fall on my radar. Now that being said, are these maps meant to have this many dead ends? I don't know, maybe it's my lack of experience with these kinds of games, but it really feels like every 2 seconds you're running into a dead end, and God forbid the killer's coming after you. Speaking of being the killer, it is incredibly fun to be the killer. I can't even lie to you. And yes, I do take advantage of those same dead ends as a killer. Yes, I know. Now maybe it's just my luck, or perhaps some sort of a gamer's instinct, but it felt significantly easier to be a killer than to be a survivor. Now I'm not sure if that's by design or something, but I don't know. Just felt like something I should point out. But yeah, I mean, the only killer I have unlocked right now is Springtrap, or sorry, the Rotten, but I genuinely do like chasing people down and throwing the axe and, you know, sniping them with it. Seeing people try and fail to run around the tables to try to juke me out. Speaking of these maps, though, I don't know, man. Again, visually incredible, just like everything else in this game, but I don't know if they're necessarily Five Nights at Freddy's locations. Like, of course, you've got the office in that one map, but I don't know. Beyond that, you've just kind of got this, like, Slendy Tubby's forest and this, which is, I think, supposed to be the Secret of the Mimic place? I don't know, I didn't play that game, but I thought it took place in the 70s. Is this actually how it looks? I don't know, I guess what I'm more concerned about is how the hell does Dead by Daylight take over a platform like Roblox? Like seriously, was it Forsaken that started the trend of this, or was it something else? You guys have got to fill me in. With Bite by Night out of the way, we've officially discussed 2 of the 3 major players I wanted to discuss today. But there's just one more aspect of Scott Cawthon's works that I feel is equally synonymous with his style as everything else we've brought up, and of course I'm talking about his sense of humor. Even as far back as those Christian movies he used to make, I mean, the guy was cracking jokes from day one. And, you know, I don't count the kind of ironic humor from something like FNAF 1 Remake as being an evolution of this. And while there has been a plethora of just funny FNAF games over the years, I think there's one incredibly recent example in particular that encapsulates this while also going in a somewhat more lighthearted direction, at least on the surface. This is Five Nights at Freddy's 3, a FNAF fan game made in Game Maker Studio that by far has the most variety in its gameplay out of all the games we've talked about today. And you want to know the craziest part about this? While this is a standalone title, this is a follow-up to 2 Scratch games. Like, oh my god, that glow-up is crazy. And I seriously love it, because it's like Ultimate Custom Night if it was engineered to trigger dopamine releases in my brain as frequently as possible. Here's how it works. In each night, you've got a window in front of you, 2 doors, a vent, cameras, and vent tracking. However, there's also a page with these like WarioWare micro games that earn you coins, which you also get from stopping some animatronics at your door and stuff like that. You can then use these coins to buy some shit from Mendo's shop, like a little bit of extra power, skipping an hour, or a death coin to shut someone off entirely for the rest of the night. However, in between nights, you've got to salvage new animatronics, which will then require you to have to deal with them the following night. And a lot of these mechanics are really fun, like they add a lot. And it has this really neat effect that I like, where the ones that you think won't be that big of a deal at first end up kind of screwing you over later. That ended up being Withered Freddy for me. I mean, I love Withered Freddy. The guy kind of just like strolls back and forth in that window, and then whenever he's close to one door, you gotta shut that one, and then he strolls back on over to the other one. Pretty easy to deal with at first, but then he started to piss me off, and I was like, oh god, I regret this now. I like how on that Twisted Wolf thing, you gotta click the illusion disc on him in order to make him fuck off. And what they do with Dreadbear is really interesting. You gotta like drag and drop candy into his mouth in order to make him leave your office. Like the animatronic is trick-or-treating. That was really hard to say, animatronic trick-or-treating. By the end of my first run, I discovered that this game actually has several endings to it, and I got the slacker one for not having done anything special. I think I can see where some of the branching paths start, but I have been advised not to deep dive on that because of just how much more there is to talk about with this game. But hey, if you guys would be down for it, maybe we'll do like a marathon stream. I could like open up a Twitch account. Any excuse to sink more time into this one, honestly. It's really fun. And at that point, I think I'd even be comfortable enough to make a whole video about this game. Maybe after I've completed it, I'll have found some gripes with it, so I'm not just completely glazing this game. Oh yeah, I almost forgot, this game has a crazy modding scene. Like there's a dedicated Game Banana page and everything. On the page where you download the game, there's like a little readme and a template for adding your own characters. It's actually really nice of them to do that. So if you ever wanted to play as Kasane Teto and Frick Bears, well yeah, there's the Game Banana page. You know, I didn't realize it at first, but I think this might be the reason why somebody referenced Frick Bears in the comments whenever I revealed these new sprites. Courtesy of Starboy, of course. But yeah, sorry to disappoint, but you can't play as me and Frick Bears. Besides, I don't even know how that'd work. Soda cans are like 5 inches tall. So we've taken a look at 3 different FNAF fan games and touched up just a little bit on what in the source material and the subsequent aftermath in its community that might have led to their births. But I guess now you might be wondering, what was the point? Why do this for a video? Well, for starters, just so that we're clear, I really just wanted to sink my teeth into these. But also, I think a recurring theme on this channel has been the vision of the artist. For those of you that have watched my previous videos, you know we've already discussed Toby Fox and Gooseworks on here at great length. But we also talked about the way that artistic choices can leave a substantial impact on communities, in more ways than people even really actively think about. And so while Five Nights at Freddy's has considerably changed, it's fascinating and dare I say beautiful the way each step of its evolution can still be felt within its fandom. The early FNAF games set the stage for a somewhat grounded paranormal story, and lots felt rug pulled when the aesthetic started to make a shift. But this gave room for many more disturbing stories to be told by fans. Scott Cawthon's love for sci-fi and just plain cool shit had a similar effect. It attracted the right subset of people that would go on to create interpretations of his world that highlighted those qualities. And that sense of humor sprinkled in, I'd argue, is partially responsible for Butterfly affecting a lot of the more lighthearted projects into the world too. But FNAF is far from the only community with these qualities, right? I want you to think about the FNAF fandom, and I want you to think about cringe culture, just for a moment, because I think you and I can both agree that it's pretty undeniable that a FNAF fan is far more likely than, say, a Harry Potter fan to also be into something like Undertale and Deltarune or Friday Night Funkin'. And without being pessimistic and without being rude, why do you think that is? Well, for myself, as somebody with history in all 3 of those fandoms, I genuinely believe that the creativity oozing out of all of these different projects is contagious. And as someone who's had the absolute displeasure of being in fandoms that completely lack that creativity and are susceptible to moral bankruptcy with no means of holding them accountable, well, I guess I'm just gonna say be grateful. No fandom lacks its issues, but this is special. So take it from me, because I really do feel like an outsider looking in these days. And even I can say that's for certain. That's all for today. Thanks for sticking around to the end. I know I haven't really done this I play a game and then tell you what it was like thing before, so let me know if this is a format you like or if I really shouldn't try this again. But otherwise, don't forget to like and subscribe if you're not yet, and leave a comment down below so we can get a discussion going. What kind of FNAF fan are you? What do you like to see in your fan games, you know? I said it before, but I'm just astonished at how fast this community is growing. You guys have all been great, and just thank you so much. As a quick little aside as well, I'm pretty sure Starboy is gonna start doing little speed paints and stuff, so if you ever were curious on how these thumbnails were made, or if you ever wanted to get a look at their art process, then be sure to go over there and subscribe. Anyways, this has been ronbrazy, and I'll be seeing you all next time. Catch you later, y'all.
Freddy Fazbear in my walls, Foxy running down the halls, Chica is to my right, low power gives me a fright. Freddy Fazbear in the wall, I can hear the heathens call. Oh, it's 6 a.m.